My daughter, 15F, had her school's winter showcase last weekend. It wasn't a full play, but a collection of scenes and monologues from various drama projects the students had been working on. She had a significant role in one of the featured scenes and was really excited about it. Even though she never directly asked me to be there, I knew how important it was to her. The complication arose because my niece, 16F, had her first big art showcase on the same night. Ever since my sister's husband passed away when my niece was little, I've done everything I can to be there for her. She's incredibly talented in painting, and this was her first chance to have her work displayed in a real gallery alongside other student artists. In the days leading up to the events, my niece made it very clear how much she wanted me to attend her showcase. I had already explained that I couldn't come because I was committed to my daughter's event. Although she said she understood, I could tell she was saddened by the situation. Then, on the night before the art showcase, she called and broke down in tears. She told me that having me there would mean the world to her, that it was one of the biggest moments of her life, and she desperately wanted me to be proud of her like a father would be. That call completely shattered me. I felt that if I didn't go, I would be letting her down in a way that might haunt her for a long time. After that heartbreaking conversation, I spoke with my daughter and my wife about the situation and asked if I could attend my niece's showcase instead. They agreed, so I changed my plans. However, the day after the event, my daughter was really upset and sad. Although I did feel guilty, I had obtained permission from both her and my wife before switching my attendance. My wife later expressed that I should have stuck to my original plan, especially since our daughter had even cried several times after her own showcase. Update, February 15, 2025 to 2 weeks later. Hey everyone, the past couple of weeks haven't been easy. I finally realized the depth of my daughter's hurt during a long talk where she poured out her feelings and cried for what seemed like endless minutes. It hit me hard that I was the one responsible for all of this. Yesterday, my wife encouraged me to make it up to her by spending a whole day together. So, I took her out for a movie, some shopping, I even got her a bunch of gifts, and enjoyed a nice lunch and dinner at a restaurant. It turned out to be a very special day. When we returned home, she hugged me for several minutes, the first time in a long while, and it meant the world to me. Now, I want to clarify that I don't think my niece did anything wrong. She simply wanted a father figure by her side on one of the most important days of her life. I recently met with my sister and my niece to discuss the situation, and I told them that while I cherish our time together, I can't do it at the expense of my daughter. They were understanding, and we even had a great evening together afterwards. My sister and my niece are genuinely kind and empathetic, and I'm lucky to have them in my life. However, if there's ever another scheduling conflict with my daughter, I know that I must choose her first. Complicated situation and need to share my story. My ex-husband, let's call him Chad, was emotionally and sometimes physically abusive. We share 2 kids, and co-parenting has been a nightmare, even after I remarried and had another child. He is manipulative, controlling, and a genuinely toxic human being. My dad owns several rental properties, some bought while I was married to Chad, and some purchased after our divorce. He's always talked about these houses as investments for the family and referred to them as generational wealth, promising to leave them to his 3 kids in his will. The problem is, my dad currently co-owns 6 of these properties 50-50 with Chad. That fact makes me incredibly uncomfortable. Here's the core issue. My dad wants to build a relationship with me now, yet he refuses to acknowledge the horrific abuse I endured at the hands of Chad. Despite knowing some of the details, he won't cut ties with him. This refusal makes both me and my current husband extremely nervous and feels like a betrayal, a constant reminder that my pain is being ignored. Adding insult to injury, Chad makes my dad money. My father lives off the profits from their business deal, a deal where he supplies the capital, takes all the risk, and splits profits 50-50 with Chad, who handles all the renovations as a contractor. Meanwhile, I have no financial ties with my dad. I neither give nor receive money from him. Yet, Chad's involvement has even allowed him to avoid child support, because the income flows through my dad's name. It's a thoroughly messed up situation. During my abusive divorce, when I was at my lowest, my dad, knowing what Chad was capable of, told me he was praying for me and Chad to reconcile. This is the kind of man he is, more concerned with appearances and the opinions of his Christian community than with my well-being. And it doesn't stop at business. My dad and Chad actually socialize. They attend church, have lunches, dinners, birthday parties, the whole 9 yards. My dad's excuse is that they never talk about me, which I find hard to believe. Even if they aren't gossiping, the fact that my dad willingly spends time with my abuser, sharing meals and celebrating milestones with him, speaks volumes. It sends a clear message. His comfort and financial interests are more important than my well-being. It feels like he's choosing Chad over me, again and again. I've tried to talk to him about how his ongoing relationship with Chad hurts me. I've explained that his refusal to acknowledge the abuse makes me feel unsafe and unsupported. But he brushes it off with comments like, "You need to forgive and forget," or "I don't want to get involved." So, here's where I might be seen as unreasonable. I set a boundary. I told my dad that I cannot maintain any relationship with him until he, 1, severs all business ties with Chad, and ensures that Chad no longer holds any financial interest in any of the properties. 2, acknowledges the abuse I suffered and stops minimizing it or pressuring me to reconcile with my abuser. I also made it clear that until these conditions are met, I want nothing to do with his will. I refuse to allow any potential inheritance to become a tool for Chad to manipulate or contact me in the future. Am I being unreasonable? I feel like I have no other choice. I need to protect myself, my husband, and my children from Chad's toxic influence. At the same time, I feel heartbroken and conflicted. I love my dad, yet I can't tolerate his choices any longer. It feels like I'm the unwanted daughter, like the daughter-in-law who divorced his son. Wealthy family and now work in the family business. So technically, I'm not spending mommy and daddy's money anymore. I've been with my girlfriend for 1 year and 5 months. She's the best thing in my world. No matter if I'm bored, sad, lonely, upset, or even happy, she always makes things better. I've always believed that showing off my wealth isn't the way to attract someone who loves you for who you are, not what you have. That's why, when we started dating, I kept my spending in check until I felt comfortable with her. 3 months in, I bought her a tablet that cost somewhere between $600 and $700. She seemed okay with it. I don't think I'm careless with money, though I admit I'm not the most mindful spender either. At 7 months into the relationship, I decided to buy my girlfriend a bracelet I'd spotted while shopping for my little brother's birthday gift. It was $6,000. I know, saying that out loud might sound like a bad idea, but I've splurged on some truly ridiculous things before, and for my budget, it wasn't as extravagant as it might seem. However, she wouldn't accept the bracelet and insisted I return it. I kept telling her it was fine, but she didn't budge. I even suggested giving it to her sister as a wedding present, but she said no. Later, she mentioned that me buying the bracelet was a red flag. Around 8 months into the relationship, I realized I was in love with her, and she told me she loved me too. I planned a "we're in love" date, thinking that since she rejected the bracelet, I'd keep things simple this time. No fancy dinners, no extravagant gifts, just us enjoying food from a local spot we both love, sitting by the mountain, one of her favorite places. The date went well, but on the ride home, she mentioned that even though she had a good time, she expected something fancier. Noted. 4 days ago, on her 25th birthday, I bought her a car. By then, we had been together for 1 year and 5 months. We were in love, and we talked about our future together. I assumed such a gift was acceptable. She thanked me at the moment, but once we got to her place, she told me that buying the car was my third and final strike. She explained that she had thought I wouldn't do something like that again, and now, in her eyes, I had gone too far. She said she didn't know what I could do to fix things. We haven't broken up, but we aren't really talking either. I guess the tablet was the first strike. Whenever I give a gift, I always make it clear that I expect nothing in return, so she never feels like she has to keep up. I've never been fond of receiving gifts myself. I even asked my parents to stop when I turned 10. But she means so much to me that I enjoy spoiling the people I care about. I can be a bit materialistic, but it's always with the intention of making someone happy. I asked her if we could have an honest conversation, and she explained that she doesn't want expensive gifts for multiple reasons. She feels like accepting them would make her feel indebted to me, like a gold digger, and that she could never match what I do for her. She mentioned that she'd be okay with occasional chocolates or flowers. I apologized and explained that I love making people happy, but I clearly missed the mark by buying her things without considering her feelings. I also expressed that I wasn't fond of this strike system I hadn't known about. She agreed that from now on, she'd just tell me when I did something that bothered her. In hindsight, expecting only 3 strikes over the course of an entire relationship is unrealistic. Someone commented that after all these gifts, I might have hoped that she'd be less likely to break up with me, even a little bit. The truth is, yes, in everything I do, whether it's making her breakfast in bed, doing her housework, or simply rubbing her back, I want to be the best partner possible. Every little act is meant to show my love for her and to make our relationship stronger. We also talked about that fancier date comment. She said that while she wasn't disappointed, she saw it as an opportunity where I could have splurged a little more, though it wasn't absolutely necessary. She explained that we need to find a middle ground because what I consider extravagant and what she considers extravagant are very different. For example, $6,000 might be a lot for me, but for her, it felt entirely different. A car from my perspective and a car from hers are worlds apart. This whole experience has made me more aware of the differences in our upbringings. The pandemic and my family's growing wealth have made it clear how different my world is from others. I used to be able to casually decide to spend 6 figures on something because I didn't have to think twice, until my girlfriend pointed out that I should do something more meaningful with that money. My family is planning to donate to those affected by the pandemic, but it's mostly for appearances. My dad doesn't just wake up one day and feel like helping people. It's all strategic. She said that if I want to spend big, I should be ready to do that. In the end, we decided to give the car to someone who lost their job. It made her feel really good to know that something that once symbolized a misstep in our relationship could now help someone in need.